everybody? We're here. We're ready to rock and roll. Please let us know if you can hear us and if you can see us okay in the chat. Um, we're excited to do some demo reel reviews for you today, but we want to make sure that you are emotionally and mentally prepared, just like we are. Maybe that's just me getting the pre-stream stress loud and clear. Thanks, Adam. Nice to see all of you. Welcome to the Rat. We are some representatives from the Riot animation team, and we're here coming to you live with some demo reel reviews. Because guess what? Internship application season is upon us, and we have some cool information about that. But before I dive in with a whole bunch of little announcements and some whole bunch of little announcements. I don't have any announcements, but like small details about what we're doing today, what we're talking about today. Let's talk a bit about who I'm here with. Can I get some intros, starting with whoever speaks first?
It's me. I go by the name of Tyler, and I work on the video game called League of Legends. Alex, what video game do you work on?
I'm also in League of Legends on the Champs team. How about you, Vanessa?
Hey, yeah, I'm an animator on Valorant. How about you, Kaylee?
Yeah, I'm also same team with Vanessa. I'm working the Gunskin animation, the Valorant team, and the House of Skya. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Skylar. I'm also an animator. Surprise! I'm working on R&D projects, secret future stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the intros. My name is Lana Bashinsky. I am also in R&D at Riot. And yeah, we're going to do some demo reel reviews here for you. But up top, a couple things. We, of course, got so many submissions for the demo reel review stream. Maybe you'll try and squeeze out another one of these before the applications officially open. Because if you are here because you are interested in being an Internet Riot, you might have already looked into this. You might have found this. The little detail is rather than opening the floodgates for all disciplines at all times for the internship, there's so many applicants that this year recruiting is opening up those internship applications in waves. And so that means the Arch one is not slated to open up until around November. So for once, rather than the applications being open and we're like, good luck, we wanted to have this demo review stream open in time for you to actually submit your work and maybe make some changes in advance of your submission. So keep an eye out for when the applications actually open. We don't know the exact date, but it is sometime in November. And if you're not already following like Riot Careers or whatever on all the social media platforms, you can go do that, and then you'll get the information you need. Second thing that I wanted to talk about is a thank you to all of you. You are such a wonderful community. I cannot tell you how heartwarming it is to read through on the Discord and see how thoughtful all of you were with submitting your demo reels, specifically calling out that you're not applying to the internship or you are applying to the internship and asking us to prioritize the people who are. That is touching. That is heartwarming. I really appreciate everybody who submitted their reel. And specifically said, you know, somebody else get in line. I'm here. I'm excited to be here, but prioritize the people who need the feedback now. Thank you. That is really, it's freaking honorable, you know? It's so great. And after this, I'm going to go through it every single reel that we can't get to. I'm going to post in the COP channel, and we'll see if we can get everybody some rat eyes on your work for everybody, whether or not you're applying at the end of this, because I appreciate you guys so much. That's so great. And the third thing is, yeah, we have a lot to get to. And so I'm going to stop wasting time with all this like upfront blabbing about all these little details. I do see questions coming in, Air Reaper, questions in the chat. I will be also answering questions, posing questions to this group in between all the reels that we review today. So please keep your questions coming in the chat. Please tag us at Rat Animator so I can see them. And we'll see if we can get you all the hot deets for the internship. And with that, Rats, are you ready to rock?
Yay!
Woo!
So ready.
All right. And the chats, are you ready to rock? Let's get some like preliminary rats in the chats. These are going to be my first chat rats in my new digs up in Seattle. And I need it. I need the energy. All right. We are starting off here. We've got, is everybody looking at Alan Lee's demo reel? More like
Yes.
Seattle. We love to see it. Alan Lee, let us know if you're in the chat so we can ask you questions about your work. With that, that's the other thing I was going to say quickly is we are going to try and time box these reviews to being 10 minutes each. But if a review seems like it needs less time or more time, we're going to try and take that as it goes. But we're going to do our best so that we can get through as many as possible. So timer starts now. Rats, don't forget you control the audio on your own side. I'm not in the sync. Join sync. And let's go. Once through no audio. Alan in the chat, Arceus 2018. Hello, still new to animation. Be harsh. Still new to animation. While the rats sort of digest this for one more second, can you define new to animation? This is some solid work for somebody new to animation. Less than a year. Damn, Alan. All right, rats. Let's start with overall impressions.
Yeah, like you said, it is very solid. And I want to just some quick notes that aren't related to animation at all, but play blasts are definitely fine for reels. But there are some things like make sure the quality is like high HD, and there's some things like you can see clipping here for the socks. That's just like a clip plane probably on the camera can solve that. There's just like small details like that, which are very easy to fix, which will help boost the quality of the reel.
100% agree.
Yeah, I can add something. This last piece, I like the first one a lot because it's much more polished level. But this one, I see the when like doing the dispose is like tipping the Coke animation specifically is like placed in only one spot. It's not moving up like a little bit with any idle or breathing animation. So last piece also gonna be important too because like all the pieces have to be well done for the applying the actual job. So I hope you can add more polish level and then breathing or detail animation there. Gonna be super helpful for making the high quality animation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think both of your first two pieces have like a great variety in that like this one is still like in step mode, but it's like so like your ideas are so clear and the poses are so clear. Like I can see what the end result looks like in my mind's eye. And then likewise, your second piece, or not likewise, but your second piece shows that you are able to like achieve a certain quality of polish because this one is splined out. So if everything was in step mode, I would be like, we would need to see something that shows that you can bring something up to a splined quality. So you have that. And then this one goes back into sort of like the whip zone, but like a little leaning to, thanks for the feedback on the volume, I'll adjust. It comes a little bit to, I like kind of understand what's going on at the first half of it, but then as soon as we start getting into these poses, it really does feels like too blocking-y, to the point where I can't even like see the ideas clearly connecting to each other through the back half of this animation. And so if you were able to like focus on one thing before your submission is cleaning up the rest of the story that comes with the last half of this animation, because I've sort of lost the thread.
My overall impression is that the music seems to be too loud because it was like regular volume, everyone talking here, and the music was much louder. I personally don't like music. That's the debatable topic. I muted as soon as I heard the music. But if you can edit to match the rhythm of your shots, it's like a great addition. If not, I don't bother putting it. And you can make a better intro and outro for your reel. I know this is temporary, but you can make a better one whenever you like finish your reel.
Agreed. Oh, Skylar, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna give a couple like slightly more specific notes here at the very beginning because I know we talked about a lot of general stuff. So first up, I want to say that I really, really, really love this first shot. It's like got a lot of really cool stuff in it. I mean, I just want to scrub because I don't know if like everyone could even see it like full speed. Like some of the poses in here are just awesome. Like the way you drag the legs and the hair and everything is like all a spiral. Just feels like really nice and it plays out really fluid even though it's like pre-step mode. I particularly like at the end, this is kind of a cool moment where she's like diving and then you just snap to this pose. It's probably not something I would have like thought of immediately as like a transition into this land. But from a like just shape standpoint, when it like plays out at full speed, you don't notice that. It just kind of feels like she's like an arrow kind of exploding into the ground. And it has a really cool, nice feel to it. A couple of things that I think could just take this shot to like the next level. This wind up here kind of felt a little jarring to me, how she like steps back and then immediately lunges forward. I'd maybe like get rid of like the back step. She feels so explosive throughout the rest of this animation that I almost wonder if you could just have her crouch down the tiniest bit like right here and then just jump straight to like this pose where she's like already pushing off into the air and give her almost like a just like a small like very small wind up into that very burst. She already feels like very bouncy and I'd almost like emphasize her like lightness on her feet. Like if you see like soccer players when they're like about to like get going, they'll do like a little tiny like juke down and then like burst into the action. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this. And I think something like that might feel a little bit cleaner and a little less like, oh, I'm going into a big windup. I just don't think it's super necessary. And the last thing I wanted to note was I just sort of noticed a very small kind of like spacing issue here when she comes up and you can barely see it at full speed. But like if you watch the sort of like spacing of these frames, so if I'm kind of like marking where her like waist is, she goes like, she's like, there's like big spacing between this frame and the next frame. Then it gets really tight. Those frames are like really, really close together. And then it gets big again. That might make sense if you wanted to emphasize like the peak of this action and maybe like have the spacing be like a little bit tighter at the top to kind of give it like an exaggerated like, and then down into the next action. But the fact that it's kind of happening when she's like coming up through the action feels a little awkward. So I don't think that that's necessarily like a bad choice or even necessarily a mistake, but I'd maybe like move it to like the top of the arc of the action. So you get that kind of like right at the peak of the action, right at the peak of that arc. And then she like zips down into the end pose. But anyways, really cool work. Love it.
Can I make one last
Yeah.
quick point?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I know you answered in the chat about having it on twos. The reason this one, well, we don't animate on twos for video games, but also the poses are on screen for longer, so you see them a lot more. So in spline, something like you might be able to get away with a smear like this, but because it's in twos, it sticks out a lot more, and it starts to feel broken. That's all I wanted to say.
Yes. That is a great note. Smears, especially like once we're in game, like you want to feel them more than you can see them. Vanessa, we definitely have time for another note.
Just a really broad note. You have real strength in creating dynamic poses with bipedal characters, and that's awesome. And you already look like you can incorporate character and attitude into these guys. I would focus on just polishing these, and then since you seem really pretty taken to animation, I would challenge you to try a creature or try something else to sort of show more breadth in your work and not just bipedal. But that's just a small overall note that I wanted to give.
Yeah, that's a great note. And that's a great sort of look into one of the things that we've talked a lot about on this stream is sort of diversifying like your skill set, but also representing the diversity of your skill set within your demo reel. It's not just about like, oh, here's all my most polished pieces, because, you know, down the line, once you're animating more for more than half of a year, you'll have so many polished pieces. It's about what you're trying to show that you are capable of doing to your prospective employer. Thanks everybody for also like typing in the chat lots of answers, because we're trying to fly through things. I think that'll be the best way for us to sort of get you all the info that we possibly can in the shortest blast of time. This is recorded, right? It sure is. We're gonna have the VODs. We've gotten them automatically uploading to our YouTube later, so you should be able to check those out. Yeah, I don't have any other things that I would say at this time, aside from getting the finality of your ideas through the last piece. And honestly, those higher resolution play blasts on the first and last piece would be two great pieces. And that's about it. Any final thoughts from anybody else? And otherwise, we got to keep on keeping on.
Awesome work. Good job.
Awesome. Thanks so much for submitting, Alan. Can we get rats in the chats for Alan Lee? Awesome, awesome work. Woo! And while we transition to the next one, we'll be looking at Nathan Ramos. So if you're in the chat, Nathan, let us know. And I did see an earlier question from Air Reaper. Can you apply to the internship even if you graduate this year? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I think that internships in the past, you have needed to be returning to school, and that is to ensure that internships go to students who have limited opportunities in the industry. So, but I forget the nuance of that. But Riot Careers, I think on social media has been doing like a big push with like, here's everything you need to know about applying for internships. So checking on social media and checking on LinkedIn, the Riot Games page will likely be posting all about this, and probably links on the Riot Careers page on the website to all of the application requirements for applying to internships. And with that, is everybody ready with Nathan Ramos's work?
Yes.
Nathan Ramos is in the chat. And yeah, let's once through with audio, and let's let me get the timer set up and let's do it to it. All right. Another reel with the jams. Any overall impressions from the rats?
When are you in the sync?
Am I in the sync? Hell no, I'm not. Join sync. Did y'all play it, or are you just waiting for me this whole time?
Yes.
I wasn't
not
sure
working.
if it was playing.
Yeah.
All right, once
That's
more,
sketchy
once
issue.
more. Woo! I left the sync because everybody in the community was like looking at each other's stuff, and I was like trying to catch the reels, and it was like crashed my computer with all of the sync sketches trying to go at once. So I left all the syncs. Sorry. We're gonna do that one more time, everybody. Take 2 with Nathan Ramos's reel. Can you see it now? And Nathan says, I just wanted to say y'all reviewed my work last year with the rest of the Riot crew, and I saved the VOD since then. I took your crits seriously since then. That's awesome. Can't wait to give you another review that hopefully you find impactful. Any initial thoughts from the rats for Nathan's reel?
My initial thoughts are for internship level. This is great. You got a bit of variety in here. You got an attack, you got a walk cycle, you even have story with these cinematics, which I think were really fun. I was sucked in right away. So I can tell you have an affinity for storytelling, like right off the bat, and that's a really good sign. I think just one of the things that I saw first, like your first shot here, I think this is great. Like you have a lot of dynamic framing. For as far as some of the strikes go, I do think they're some are a bit slow, and if you could just kind of like add a bit more snappiness to the strikes, like I know here you have one, and then this shuriken throw I think could be snapped up even faster, just to kind of play up the dynamic action that's happening in this shot. Yeah, that's kind of one of the first things that jumped out on me. I would actually prefer this one as your first shot rather than this one, but I see that with this one, like you have a lot of combat going on, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I mean, if you're looking for like a how maybe to do that on this, I think taking I often tell people like make your fast parts faster and your slow parts a little slower. And so I think like just doing like a very sort of subtle pass on this where you take all these sort of like wind up poses and hold them a little bit closer, and then all your actions try to cut frames from them. So basically if you were to like, you know, sort of hold this frame 2 frames longer, and instead, and to compensate for that, take your frames out like that one, maybe have like a more extreme pose, like here, it's like just slicing through, and then you just have like one in between that sort of represents the action, and then cut straight to that. You'll get this sort of like kind of feeling, whereas right now it all feels like a little bit even. And I think the shuriken throw was like another spot that was like a good example of like where you could push that. You know, you sort of have this, he, I'm not sure which it is, just sort of like eases into this and flicks it out. And I really want to see that like little anticipation back hold, and then it's just like, right, and it just like snaps out really quickly. So I think, yeah, just sort of like ease out of your actions a little bit more, and then when you get into them, like see how many frames you can cut out. And you can always try to even add like maybe some kind of little sweep or something to like help with selling like the arc of the action, so it doesn't get like stroby when you do that.
Mm-hmm. I think also like that there are things in there that you are attempting to do that, but the shape of the card that you're using and also the value of that card is not doing you any favors by way of readability. It pops on and off like literally one frame here, this big smear. So we never really get to see like the like any like indicator that it's there or like a really distinct resolution to that. So it's not really functioning as a smear so much as almost like a visual bug. It wasn't until we started scrubbing through that I noticed that these cards were in there attempting to smooth out that experience. And so doing something like this, like exactly, I think Skylar just drew that, exactly what I was going to draw, showing specifically like this curve that shows where the blade is coming to and like where the blade has come from, because right now it implies that she like rushed in from off the screen right here because of how straight that card is, and letting it live for like at least one additional frame, and it could be smaller or whatever, so it's not quite as, I should have used the same color as you. Of course I drew it off from too, but something so it sticks around just a little bit longer, and then even like a couple like little whooshings away might be like extra detail. But if you're going to include it's got to be much better than the drawing I just did for the second half of it. And that should help you hold those poses longer because you have that other lever to pull by way of readability. Skylar, I think I accidentally stepped on the next thing you're going to say.
I was just going to give like a couple other really small notes across the reel of things that I saw that could be improved, like that were sort of consistent things I saw. One is a lot of your poses have this like flat-footed feel to them, where the feet feel like really, really stuck to the ground. And going through on some of these and like tilting the ankles a little bit, or getting like a little bit up on the toes on some of these can just help the character feel a little bit more like organic. And I would say it's like a little bit more of like a polishy thing. But when I see that as like a consistent thing across the reel, it gives everything a little bit of like a feet, like the heels stuck to the ground feel, which in reality, in like an agile fight like this, you're more often like kind of up on your toes. And then I had two other things that I saw that I wanted to call out. One was this shot here. During this point in it, I lose all sort of understanding of like how fast she's moving, because there's no like background elements in here to like understand the parallax of space she's running through. So I think this shot could just be drastically improved by like playblasting this with some kind of background element in it, so you can see or understand like the space that she's moving through. And then the last one that I saw was just, I know this is like a teeny tiny thing, but it's like an easy thing to fix, which is you have like the sword clipping through the ground on a frame here. And that's just the kind of thing that like, if I notice that on like first glance and it's an easy thing to fix, like I would try to fix any kind of like ground clipping and stuff, because it just will show like a, you know, level of polish when you don't have that stuff.
Yeah, I can add the first one, like this part, because like this character there's no texture, so it's like gray color. So have to like keep pose more clear for leading actually. So because when actually the kicking pose, I feel it's kind of not too clear also, like making more the strong shape you can make kind of that, like more spine gonna be like up and like more clear the arm pose also. And then usually like hold the animation, the villain. I saw lots of the hand poses like kind of that, like kind of the simple pose like this. So having more actual like the finger like poses also shape changer, so that's gonna be super helpful, more polish level. So that's kind of my main notes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this moment that you pulled over here, and there's like a couple things that I wanted to touch on. One is like, because the textures in this piece, it does make it difficult, especially when like this whole blob is almost the same color as this, which is almost the same color as the people. It can make it the job that you're trying to accomplish here more challenging than it needs to be. So even like you gave these guys these red masks. If you could even just like literally like the character's neon green and the rest of them are like fully like a brighter color red, it would like really, but like pick better colors than that. Like it would help with that differentiation, so you don't have to do quite as much heavy lifting or even fighting against some of these higher contrast shadows that appear. But specifically this moment happens so quickly and behind such this like flat textured, same color, same value as the rest of the background. I almost feel, but this is so bright red, I actually didn't register like, oh, she's teleporting to the thing that she just threw out. And so having that moment be really clear, whether you add like a quick like spark here so that you're like, there's like magic is about to happen, or if you likewise before she leaves, you know, you have a partner kind of spark on this side, and then have her not just fully teleport literally over one frame, but have one frame where she's not there at all, and then she appears from probably even a tighter pose than this, so that you get the like ultimate contrast of the pose that she was in versus where she's coming from. It'll just feel more explosive, and it'll be a lot easier to actually track what's happening in the shot. And then the only other thing I really wanted to say is that this pose, the background, as Skylar mentioned, but her feet feel so sticky, and I think that also comes with some of the flat-footedness of it. I feel like her feet are kind of on the ground too long or something through here. I can't quite place what the issue is, but that starting of that run feels, I think, just slightly more laborious than it needs to, and I need to do some dwelling on exactly why that is. But there's just energy loss happening, and I feel like it's how she's pushing off on the ground, or how long her feet are staying on the ground, makes her feel kind of weighted down. Any additional thoughts here for Nathan?
I have one last minute thing. The spacing here throws me off a little bit. I think it's the camera, because you're going very screen left, and the camera kind of just like pans really fast. Something here on the spacing is off. And this one, I don't feel the weights here, like on the flying creature, the dragon. But that's pretty much it. Last minute.
All right.
As we're switching to the next one, I just wanted a general applicable note that will apply to all reels. This is like a title card, so get to the action as quick as possible. Hold this for like 30 frames, and then just go right into it. I think that, yeah, good work.
Yeah. I also think if you're going to have one of these for your title cards, it's got to be the most perfect pose that's ever existed. But she's got like ears and pigtails, and then there's a pigtail behind an ear, behind her head. There's like a lot of... I would make this the most perfect, most beautiful pose you've ever seen. And I don't think it's quite there yet for the title card of the reel. All right, great notes all around. Thank you so much, Nathan, for submitting. Can we get rats in the chat for Nathan? Awesome work. We love to see it. I also like Michael in the chat as the hype man for everybody. There's a positive energy happening here today, and I'm here for it, baby. All right. Up next, we got Jordan LeBlanc. Jordan, are you in the chat? And does anybody have any like a mid real swap over question for us? I'll keep my eye on it. Rats with a question mark. Excellent. Great question. Any response, Rats?
Yeah, we're good. Keep
Yes.
going. Yeah, it's okay.
All right. I'm going to join the sync. We got the Toonskis turned up. Jordan LeBlanc, if you up in it, let's do it to it.
Believe me, there's no honor among thieves. Except for us, of course.
I've equipped you with everything you need to succeed, yet you manage to fail me repeatedly.
Woo! All right. Beautiful work. I have some initial thoughts, but I want to take it to the rats.
And I guess I'll start. I mean, this reel is really, really fantastic. I would say that one of the things that stands out to me is that, like, as a collection of animations, there's like a really great amount of variety of like body mechanics in like a cinematic kind of style. There's acting shots in both sort of like a more cinematic and more of like a video game format. And then there's like all the Team Fortress stuff, which are like, you know, both body mechanics and acting combined. There's just like a little bit of everything and a bunch of different styles. And so as far as like a, you know, collection of assets, it sort of represents like the breadth of your work. They're all like sort of equally high quality and show like that you can kind of do a little bit of everything, which I think is kind of what you want out of a reel. So I guess mostly thumbs up is what I'm saying.
I don't want to. I kind of feel the opposite in some ways. Like obviously, there's a lot of great work here, but I like it felt a little long. Like I just want it concentrated. If you want to go for film, have a reel for acting stuff. If you want to go for games, have a game reel, and then just have it very focused. And for the stuff like this, you have Valve and Team Fortress 2 listed at the bottom of the card. Like unless you actually worked on this game at Valve, I would not have that there.
I think that's a great call out. I think there's a world where maybe Jordan did. Because I know they do like community stuff and then they pay people for community stuff, but I agree that the ambiguity, if you didn't, you should definitely remove it. But if you did, then great. But maybe make it explicit in some way. I don't know. I agree that the reels like feels a little long. I don't know how long it actually is. I think you have like a bunch of these shots of the Link and Zelda battle that you probably don't need a bunch. There's like 2. You probably only need one of them. I think I like this one better than the first one. I'm being like nitpicky about the overall content of it. Ignore what I just said, because I think your weakest piece by far is this one, which I would just. I see it's an animation test for somebody, which implies that it was like done in a smaller amount of time, like under sort of pressure, but it is because it's like your weakest piece and it was just an animation test. I would just get it out of there. But if you wanted to keep it in because it's like the only piece in here that I think is like explicitly like video gamey, other than like the fact that that piece is for Valve slash TF2, it is like more on the cinematic side. Like that's the value I think this, like having this piece in here is. But it, especially like this first swing, he feels like he's wielding something that's like way heavier than just like a pipe. And like even if you're gonna swing something that heavy, it doesn't feel like he's doing so very impactfully. Like if I was gonna swing something that heavy, I wouldn't have that just be like an elbow pivot and then like let it sort of carry my body through. I would kind of expect like your whole body to be like leaning forward to get this thing going, so that you really feel like the pull and like getting one of those arms even straighter and more exaggerated than the other one, so you can feel like what it takes to like yank this. And it's like there's not like really a clear hit frame. Like it feels like if you're gonna hit an enemy, they'd be out here, and we want that really clear like point of contact, or just going all the way through and then having like the implied contact. We either need like the specificity of where this pipe is going through. It just goes through so smoothly, and then you get like a much sort of cleaner chop on the top half of this, but it feels very. It reads to me like you took reference with something that was not a heavy object, pretending it was a heavy object, and then animated that reference. So it's not. It just doesn't quite read as like pushed as it could be, or as like it's missing some amount of identity in a way. Like, is this a pipe that he's using? In which case, maybe it'd just be a single-handed thing. It's like an ambiguous attack in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
my
say-
comment will be to. Sorry, my comment will also be to remove this piece. It's the weakest from the reel. Or if you don't want to remove, rework. Go ahead,
Yes.
Vanessa. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, again, like overall, I think since we're reviewing stuff for interns on an internship level, I'm with Skylar. Like this is pretty amazing. But also along the lines of what Tyler was mentioning, definitely if you want to get into games, try to get stronger in shots like these where you're doing attacks and you're really emphasizing on body mechanics because your character stuff you seem to have it down pretty good. Just from a gameplay perspective, if you were to challenge yourself, I would say just go for more of these types and maybe put something in engine one day and kind of like work your way up that way for games.
Also, I can add a little like the opinion there. I feel like among these three pieces, this one feels like a little bit not good quality because I can see this one feels like spine little broken. So you have to take care about the spine, like the location part too, because feels like you only used one spine this character. So feels like the broken spine this part. And then I like this character and then like have some potential there, like characteristic. So I hope you can push more like because the wild animation, I see the cog like it's like stick on one spot. It's not moving like side to side or having more reaction with the actor, her acting. And then also hand pose is like having super same space right now, but try to making more like elegance and then like great pose over her finger because this part gonna be that's like most important for like acting animation too. So trying to focusing more making like great shape there too, and then her facial animation also. Yeah, that's kind of nice suggestion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great suggestions.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, we're animators, and so we're getting into the details here for this reel, but I do want to go back and make sure that we make it very clear. This is a great reel, especially internship level. Like you've already working. I saw Skylar did the sleuthing on LinkedIn. You're already working at Valve. You have like the experience. You have like the quality of art. It's just really fantastic. Like a whole
About
package. Alex?
Yeah, last thing about acting, this piece feels less authentic. I think you could improve on the acting here. When he's talking, like this gesture feels a little bit random, not specific enough, and symmetrical. And the way he comes back, everything at the same time. So if you wanna go into more like the acting performance, I would suggest to like do another acting piece to remove this one in the future. I think it's the weakest acting. The other ones, the acting feels better. But yeah.
All right. Any last notes for Jordan? All right. Awesome, awesome stuff. Rats in the chat for Jordan. Amazing work. Thank you so much for submitting. Yeah, we'll move on. The only question I saw in the chat by way of questions for us and internships or whatever you want is Buggy Boo said, could that last reel have felt longer because of the lack of music? Would adding music be helpful? I know that's a controversial topic. We lightly touched on it in the first reel, but what's the word? There's different opinions about adding music. Does anybody have thoughts? Alex, you mentioned you don't love it. I do love it. Is any particular thoughts? Is music a make or break situation for submitting a demo reel to a job application?
For me, I'm not putting music, and then I'm just like recording, like step kind of step and like sound clip, like editing there is like me gonna be more helpful, like putting actual the weight or the animation more improving. So I'm more the person putting the soundtrack, like just like step or hitting moment, kind of that one gonna be make more strong your piece. Yeah.
Yeah. So you like
I
sound in a reel, like Foley to like ground the work, but you don't care for music specifically. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I love having music on the reel. I mute it to watch, but I like to have it because I think it adds, if you do it well, it adds a lot. So I think it's an opportunity to show more of like your sense of rhythm and flow in the reel. But That's the thing. It has to be done well. For me, most often it hurts more than adds. But when it adds a lot for me.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's like it shows your ability. It almost it starts reaching into like, we want to work with people who are super collaborative, but often, teams want T-shaped people where they have one really strong foundation and then they have other supplemental skills that don't go as deep. And having like really well executed editing and like music timing, it shows a sense of composition. It shows like your ability to sort of step back and look at a bigger picture. I think it shows that you are a T-shaped person in like an explicit way, without having to like. I think it's just an easy way to infuse that into your reel. Wonderful, thank you, Rats, for that answer. Also, Jordan LeBlanc in the chat, who's really just reviewed. Thank you so much for swinging by. Awesome stuff. Great work. We are going to move on. Is everybody looking at Christian Cotter's reel? Christian, do we have you in the chat? Let us know. And we're going to get listening. Tuxedo Pato. Thank you for your great suggestion for the music. We're going to keep on keeping on. More suggestions for music in the chat. If you got them. Let's go. All right. Initial thoughts for Christian.
This is just a very specific thing, but a full screen red flash, I would highly avoid it. It's really disruptive to people with eyesight sensitivity issues.
Whoever's talking, you couldn't hear it. Is that true? Desktop, can somebody talk in the rat chat? In the rats?
Hello? Hello?
Oh, I don't know if that's us. Can everybody hear us?
Hear you fine.
I can hear all of you, which tells me
Maybe
that
we
the
can't
stream.
hear this.
Oh, it like cut out suddenly during the red light now. Okay. We're good. We're good. We're good. All right. So I have a couple thoughts. There's a lot of idle moments in here. And by that I mean like a focal point on like an actual idle loop. Where's the other one? You have like a pretty short reel. Like I like the length and the number of pieces, but there are some moments that end up feeling a little static because you have the focus on the idle. There's the other one. It's right before it. And like your idle work, I think, is actually some of the weaker pieces. Your idles, you're trying to get like a lot of motion in them, in making them feel really alive. But what you've sort of added between this Charmander one and this lady right here, not so much the Stormtrooper, I guess, because he's just standing there pretty stationary. But you've like moved the bones around so much that they feel kind of disconnected in like such a way that the body doesn't feel supernatural in a way. I think it's especially apparent in the Charmander one because of how much he's moving and how round he is. But also, I think maybe like the toon edges like just catch my eye more than they would like the actual rendering quality of it. And I think thinking about where the motion is coming from in those idols and why they're moving in that particular way would be helpful. Like when you get an idol like that has a lot of energy, it's not for the sake of just keeping it alive. Like the implication is that they're like ready to go, right? They've got like an energy to them, and usually that's like being driven by the hips and like the balls of the feet. Like it's like speaking to like a sense of athleticism about the person, and you're keeping like the chest kind of steady, and so like the stomach is kind of moving often more than the hips are moving or the feet are moving, and so it adds to this part of disconnection. All of that motion has to be coming and driven from a particular place, and for all of those idle moments, I would think about what is actually driving that additional like layered energy movement, why it's happening, and make sure it all makes sense by way of where that motion is radiating out from.
Also, I can say one thing about the speed thing. Like I like also Lena thing is like the like flowing kind of that on is like too much. So include the gun animation. You have to do it more snappy. Like have to more faster. So I like the overacting, but overacting have to be very snappy. Like the fast movement. Also the slice animation. This one also like the heat animation have to be super snappy and then fast. So everything like I can lead your overlapping the flow animation kind of that. So making more timing is more tighten, and then gonna be make more animation is good. Yeah.
One of the notes that Skylar left for the previous reels comes into play here about the foot being flat for a lot of the time and feeling stuck. When your foot is like very flexible and there's like a lot of rotation and roll in the joints, it's harder to do that with rigs because they're not as flexible, but it's a really nice attention to detail if you could just record yourself and do the same motions and see how much movement there's in the foot, and then apply that to these shots.
Agreed. I love seeing detail in slight foot rolls and foot motions in like animation pieces, but like especially in idols, because it's so common that I see idol cycles and reels, and as soon as I see like an ankle that is not completely locked, where I know like the IK, I can picture the IK box sitting around that foot. If I can't see the box of your IK on your wrists and ankles, it's like a good start to where you're going.
Yeah. This is pretty specific to this shot, but I notice your hips, the weight distribution is a little odd. It seems like she's putting weight on her back foot, but the hips are sort of counter rotating. So when you put weight on this foot, I would almost expect, see how the hips are here? I would expect the opposite. So you'd have the hip tilting this way because the weight is being pushed up from this foot here. So I would, just kind of, it's hard to tell because it's just one angle, but just take a closer look at that. And I would probably shoot reference to just take a closer look at how your hips are leaning when you're in a pose like this.
I actually think you can see it through like the motion here as well. Like as soon as
it's like rotating.
As soon as you start putting pressure on a joint, that joint needs to accept the pressure like of gravity and start catching the weight of the rest of the body, and that's why the hip shifts up. I think when I was animating early on, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm putting pressure on something, and so it's going to drive down and into the ground. But it's like very much the opposite of what I think, without actually just looking at what's happening, what my natural inclination was, and I feel like that's what's happening through here. It's a great note.
I wanted to rapid fire a couple small things. This sort of smear you're using in here, I think actually kind of like hurts this animation because it actually makes the arc less clean, because what you're implying with this is that if the blade's here now, that it was here last frame, when actually what it was like up here. And so you're, instead of correctly implying and helping and having this arc like imply the like action, the arc, and helping it, it's actually hindering it because it implies an in between where like the sword was kind of up here, which is kind of strange. So whenever you use like a smear element, it should assist the animation in drawing the arc, not fight against it. And so I would actually tend to avoid like smear elements that are like linear like this, and try to lean on like arcing elements like this to help you like fill in the gaps. And you can actually see that now as I scrub it already like makes that feel like way more fluid. And you actually did that. I see in like a later one here, you use like an arcing smear, and you can see like the difference, right? Like you're using this in the way as it's intended to actually like draw the missing arc of the action. So I would consider, reauthoring that smear in that animation, because I think it would help a lot to have it be arcing. The last piece I was going to talk about was just this run, since we haven't talked about runs much. Something about this run made me feel like there was like a little missing weight, or the contacts fell off, and I was kind of scrubbing through it. And I noticed that particularly like this foot here, like when we look at how the foot is, it's like contacting on the heel. And then it doesn't feel like she catches her weight because she's still on her heel for like multiple frames after. I would actually consider like trying to really like sort of speed into these contacts and really get the like a dunk feel of it. And I think it might help sell some of the weight of it. And then, anyways, that's kind of it. And then the last thing I was going to point out was just as an example of like another place where the, foot heel thing kind of feels stuck. I think this was like a good example of it, where she has this like flat foot through this like entire area, and it kind of slides around, where I'd kind of expect her to start like, pivoting up on her heel into a more like natural pose. A kind of rule of thumb that I like to use in animations is like, look where the knee is, and if it's ever in front of the foot, generally you're going to be pulling your heel up. That's not like always necessarily true. You can kind of do a squat without it, but it actually really hurts and like really stresses your foot. So it's not something that you would like naturally do in actions. You can kind of stand up and try it, that if you like lean forward and start to put your knee in front of your toe, you'll see that your heel sort of naturally starts to lift up and rotate to match the axis of that.
Yeah, check this out. Oh yeah, baby. That's the stuff. Sorry, I'm just, how do I, this is important to me. Perfect.
And then it's just going to frame by frame draw the IK handle and all
the IK box
and
on every single one. Yeah. I can't stop myself. Yeah, great notes. I also think with this run, Alex, you mentioned that it looks a little stiff. I agree. Everything feels like it's kind of moving at once, and I don't really get like a really satisfying like straight leg at any point in time. There's not like a super tight contact pose, and I think having like how much she's moving up and down, like this is moving as like a solid unit, not even just the chest, like this whole sort of rectangle of her body really feels like it's moving as a solid unit the whole time. And having a little bit of like overlap through the spine on like this axis, I think would help a little bit, especially in like if you're able to sort of stabilize her head, like it'll make her feel a little bit more like a predator, and just like more intense with the run. And if you're naturally trying to stabilize her head more than you currently are, because it goes up and down so high, that means you're going to get more motion in the hips. You're naturally going to get more rotation through the spine, and naturally get like be able to break that up a little bit with slightly more naturalistic movement. Alex, it looks like you're drawing a note.
Oh yeah, just adding on what you're saying. Get more like the arms are also, it feels like they're just going all together, just breaking a little bit and adding the clavicle like here. The shoulder could be more back here and things like that, just like breaking it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It feels stiff overall for me. It just needs an extra pass of polish compared to the other ones. This one feels very stiff, The sword feels like very stiff as well. Just overall, I will give another pass on this one.
Yeah, agreed. All right, my watch just dinged. So we got to be moving on. Any final thoughts here for Christian? Oh, you're in the chat. Cotter Animation, thank you so much for submitting. Really appreciate you being a part of the community and submitting your stuff. And I hope the notes are helpful. Can we get rats in the chat for Cotter Animation, Christian Cotter? Awesome work. We love to see it. While we transition here, I think maybe to the last reel that we can squeeze in today. How's everybody feeling? Are we going to 6:30? Alex, you gotta go?
I can do one more reel and then I gotta go.
Okay, we're doing one more reel, y'all. I'm sorry we can't do them all, but I'm gonna ping the rest of the rats and see if we can get more notes out there for you. The question in the chat while we're transitioning, Shaggy Doo, does it matter if you put your information at the beginning or at the end? Thoughts?
I have an opinion. I think you can keep it at the end. Recruiters know where they need to find information, and they have to look at a lot of stuff. So getting directly into the action and exciting stuff, I think, is important. And if you know the animator Joe Han, he used to work at Riot, his reel is a really great intro because, well, just go look it up. He has his information, but also his reel is already playing in the background, and it's a really nice, seamless transition.
I am inclined to agree. Getting your information to the only thing about putting it only at the end is that the recruiters will sometimes have to scrub all the way to the end to get the information, maybe, which is like 0.1% annoying. But you can also just put it as like the thumbnail image of your thing, so it'll automatically pop up at the beginning, but you still get like the seamless and quick transition into your work, and that's a good way to put it at the beginning and at the end. In Arceus 2018, do we need to put a phone number? No, I think you should only put the information that you want to be contacted at. And if you don't want to get called, I've seen people like put their home addresses. Please don't do that. Please don't put your home address. We don't need it. We don't need it.
Also, me,
So
I
maybe
put the little
security
like
number.
2D animation drawing too, like for little putting the personality. So yeah,
Yes.
sorry, kind of. Yeah, you can go.
I mean, I probably have a little bit of a hot take on this. I prefer info at the beginning because if the guys have like a shot list up and they put it like way at the end, like then I'm like kind of bombarded with like all the screen of text, and just kind of keeping it cleaner and simple would be nice and would be my preference. But hey, to each his own.
Definitely. I'm seeing all the hot takes in chat. Skylar, great clarification. Nobody put your social security number. If you want to receive a letter from where you apply, Alex, they will ask for your address if you get the job. Unless you want a physical rejection letter. We're going to move on. We're going to do one more reel. Alex got to go, y'all. We got to go. And we are looking at, does everyone have Megan Smith's reel in front of them? Megan, let us know if you're in the chat. We are only accepting DVDs for this internship because we want the next generation to feel our pain. All right, let's go. I'm joining the sync. Megan Smith, we're doing it. We got audio on. Let's roll.
I appreciate you checking in, but I still need my book. Can you keep looking, please?
I hatched too late, and everyone else left for the ocean.
All right. Megatron Streams. We got Megan in the chat. Welcome. Rat's overall impressions.
Just overall, just note I want to put out there, I think this reel is very cute. And that's kind of refreshing to see once in a while, to be honest. I don't think it's always got to be about the knife attacks. And I just love how cute and wholesome your reel is. So thank you for offering that breadth and variety.
I thought it was very clever, the loading here.
Oh, me too.
That was pretty good. I like that.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, me too.
I think that kind of like what Vanessa is speaking to, and like those little moments that show like not only your animation chops but like the ideas you're bringing to the table. I think that's kind of some of the stuff we're talking about, by like your reel can show off more about you than just your pure animation chops, and little details like that, like the ideas behind the composition of your reel. It's awesome. It's very, very solid. My overall impression is that I like how many sort of pieces you have that imply that you've worked like with other people, like in games, on like game projects. I can't tell if this was like an animation that is like that you've put together to look like it's part of a video game, like a talking animation that you did, Saloon Showdown, that looks like a project that you've worked on with other people. And even though the animations are like simpler, I really like that implies that you have like experience working with other people on a project. This logo I think is like getting like big. It's like pretty like in the background, but I think there's a way that you can sort of compose these shots like a little bit more. But I like that you're showing off that you have like hands-on like experience working on things, and I think that's a great thing to have.
For me, when I see your reel, like feels like kind of indie game trailer, so I want to buy it actually. But like for the animation reel, I think I was just like making one strong piece, like the good level of the action, or acting animation, because you're usually all the animation like the two arms like moving together at the same time or something kind of. There's no any strong like sweet poses and acting, so try to make just one piece and then focusing on how like making super high quality of like the animation reel gonna be more helpful to improve your reel.
Yes, I agree. That I think we can dive into like some specifics of the piece, or of the reel in general. I do think that this last one is one of your stronger pieces. Because one of the things that I think is sort of lacking across the board, or a place that you have like room for growth as an animator, is in some of you have like some strong poses, but like the way that you actually flow between them can feel a little unnatural at times. Like in this instance, you have like interesting dialogue and like acting choices that are good, but then you have the character like looking around and like not blinking, and I can't tell if this is like part of the game and so there's no blinks in this dialogue, but that dialogue is so clearly animated to the dialogue that's happening that it feels like you have room to have more naturalistic moments and transitions between your key poses, whereas right now it's all kind of a little bit smudgy. We don't have any moment that's held for a particularly long time and like a clear pose and maybe a sub pose underneath that, and we don't have like really deliberate feeling breakdowns sort of across the board, so it makes everything feel a little bit blurred in a way. I think like this is one of the examples I think of where you have like everything could be like a little bit more pushed. You have like this cute moment with the hat, but we sort of lose like there's not like a motivational factor for why the hat is coming back to be on her head right now. The camera starts moving afterwards, which tells me that it's trying to show me something right up front, but I can't tell what it is. So it's like there's this ambiguous space where I would maybe just cut on the action that shows. I would either add a pose of the hat being like time to go, and then the camera move happens, and then there's a deliberate action, or just cut on action to this thing floating up on her head. But how quickly we get from this floating pose to the hands just kind of come out in the same, everything sort of moving at the same time, and then immediately down on her head. There's not like a, the idea is that it's kind of like ha, ah, and like landing on her head, but we just sort of flow through the poses and lose that moment of satisfaction right before it snuggles down onto her. And then likewise, we don't have her like reacting to that. We just have her immediately brushing the brim out of the way and going into the peace sign. And so there needs to be a little bit more breathing room between some of these actions to make the acting really sing.
Going off of that, I think a really useful tip for timing is doing what Lana just did, is making noises with your mouth and recording it and putting those sound files in Maya and timing it to those things. So doing the whoosh, whoosh, that will really help with the timing.
Yeah, and if sorry, just to piggyback off Tyler's note, something that I love to do, and also I know Blue Sky animators used to do it too, is that you would just get a spear and you would move that spear in space just to kind of get the timing and a clear read, because sometimes I think, especially when we're starting off as animators, we get caught off guard with how much details on the rig already, and we just we get overwhelmed with all these controls, and maybe we're trying to move too much at the same time. You can literally just get a ball, time it out, and have that be a nice clear read, add the emphasis where you want, and apply it to the hat afterwards. And I've found that to be really helpful. And I just did it recently for a few previous projects I did at work.
I also think that because you have clearly poses that you're choosing to do and you're flowing through them, it speaks to me as you did a blocking pass that was in stepped, and then you put it in splined, and those moments that felt like they were held for a long time in stepped because of the stepped mode hold, like the natural hold, kind of get lost into your transition in spline. And you might want to also explore using copied pairs, which is I guess the technical term for the thing that I didn't know had a name to it, where before you would go into splined, or even if you're animating in splined, actually putting keys on both of those ends where you want a pose to be held for, so that when you are transitioning into smoothing out your animation, you still get something going into a pose for as long as you want it for, and it makes it really easy to adjust that timing to test how long you want a hold to be. I made it so Scott, I didn't even know how to name it. I didn't know I had a name either. I did make a video for somebody in the Rat Discord explaining copied pairs with an example. So if you're interested in that, I'll go dig that up and repost it. But yeah, Alex, you've been drawing up a storm. You want to?
Just drawing a few poses here. Like what you're saying about this piece, you can make more clear poses, and if you see the difference of the drawing and the pose, it's a lot more clear how the silhouette is open on the head and then it's closed, and then there's a cute moment where it comes down, and then you have the waving to camera or something. So just clarifying these poses and pushing the appeal of them, making more the shape design and more cute poses. It's a nice piece.
Yeah, and I think that, I know we're talking about this piece a lot, but I think when approaching any shot with two characters, it's good to think about what is the relationship between the two characters and what is the little story you're trying to tell with them, because I don't really get a sense of whether she's controlling this hat, whether the hat is her friend or what. And I think what I'm kind of longing to see out of the shot, and honestly it can help you as an animator, is sort of setting yourself a rule around what the relationship is between them. So for example, you could say oh, the hat is her familiar, but she's controlling it, in which case then maybe she leads the action. She's actually come over here, and brings it over and it comes down. Or you could be, oh, the hat's like her silly friend, in which case she's like, oh, here it comes, and then it like lands on her, and it's almost like a surprise, and she's like, ooh, it landed on me. You know what I mean? Like, so just by sort of like defining and thinking about like what the relationship is between the two, it can actually like help you like inform what the acting choices are and sort of like the order that things can happen. And when I think about stuff like that, a lot of times it helps me like stop the problem of like everything kind of happening all at once, which you kind of like have here a little bit. Like the hat like lands on her and she just sort of like reacts to it all at once, where you might then, if you decide one or the other, it might be like the hat lands on her and then she reacts to it. If you know, so it can sort of inform your acting decisions to just kind of think a little bit in advance what the relationship and motivations of the characters in your scene actually are.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, Skylar, because at least I can speak to the animators on Valorant. The way we like to work is that we get a character deck that has pretty much is the Bible on a character and how their personality is. And that is a huge driver in how we begin to ask ourselves questions as animators, like how would a person with this personality walk? How would they do things? And then that drives the action. So super important. And I know as a lone animator out there, if you're not working somewhere, you're kind of coming up with that stuff on your own. But literally just kind of what we do out here, you just gather resources from different shows you like, and you can make a personality and be like, I want it to be more like this character I see on TV, and like kind of go from there, and can really do anything.
That's a great note. I feel like it diving into that, like, I always feel like if I always call it like, oh, the more thespian side of being an animator, but like how many conversations I have at work that's like, yeah, we're all animating, but I'm like, well, but where does it come from? Where does the energy come from? And even in the talk about like the kinetic intent of something, you have to like know that motivation of what the character's trying to do to reach even sometimes to not just the physicality of something, but the specificity of where that physicality comes from. And just because Alex scrubbed back here and I saw it again, this dragon is just, it's slipping. It's not moving at the right speed for this map. So it's sliding along the ground here, and it's such a cute animation. And if you just had the dragon like reach further for longer versus like planting the foot kind of like underneath, I would love this little dragon run to see it at like the correct speed. And if you're going to show like sort of in-game like implemented things, you should make sure that they're implemented perfectly so we don't get sliding feet on the ground. And that's the last thing I'll say. Any last thoughts, words, advice, notes here from Megan?
Just overall note, you're doing great. Just keep on with those mechanics, and this is all gonna look way better over time. So thank you for showing us your things.
Big plus one. Big plus one, as we say at work all the time. Can we get rats in the chat here for Megan Smith? I think Megatron Streams. Thank you so much for sharing your work. It's awesome. There's a couple other questions here before we're gonna give our farewells. Michael says, do any Riot animators have a Patreon or workshop where we can learn from Riot animators? That is such a great question. Animation flow. Is there an animation flow in the house? Oh, hold on.
Did I hear something?
Do you want to, we'll do like a quick shameless plug on the way out the door. Alex?
Yeah. I do have a Patreon with weekly lectures for animation. We go over a lot of stuff. I have some familiar names here on the chat. Thanks for coming. And yeah, feel free to call me if you want to hear more. Don't want to make like a huge ad here. This part of the rat, it's like a different thing.
It is a different thing, but I mean, We do this because we care about the community, and we don't do it
Yeah.
as frequently. And if you want more frequent access to this kind of notes, Alex has got that access for you. Kaylee recently did a masterclass, or is doing a masterclass soon.
Yes, right. So I'm gonna open my fundamental class on September 22nd. So it'll be good for the students who want to apply the internship because it's gonna be beginner and intermediate level students. So and then also I'm open the class in Nunu Camp. So you can search in Nunu Camp. And then also I'm also doing the streaming in Twitchy animation. So if you guys want to work together with me, just join it like the 10 p.m. PDT the weekday. So always welcome to visit my streaming.
And Kaylee put all the info in the Rat Discord, the link of which is above. Kaylee also wrote her Meet the Rats intro, so now there's 4 of us here. I will use this clip to gild the future rats. We love to see it. Can we get some links? Check that Discord, baby. All right, Tyler, Vanessa, Skylar, do we want to sign off as well?
Yeah, I'll sign off. I do have a tutorial series up online that's free. It's just on YouTube. I worked with Agora Studios to build an intro to game animation workshop that covers like Maya and putting your animations into Unreal. It's a little bit old. It's all done in Unreal 4. So there's been some updates, but I've looked through it recently and I think it all still works. So check that out. I actually put the link in the chat there. Other than that, I don't have a lot of social media, but you can find me on Instagram as, I believe, S Sura, and most other places as Reach for the Skylar.
Sorry for everybody who's trying to link things in the chat and failing. We have our link settings so that you can't. I'll make sure that I mod the correct people so we can get those links later. Please check them out in the Discord. I don't even know what you're trying to link A to the J, but I appreciate your vigilance. Sorry. Continue with signing off.
You want me? I don't have a sign off. I'm not an overachiever. I don't have anything online. However, I'm not going to make any promises. I would like to try to do a solo stream where I go over some reels, like a rat solo stream, where I cover some reels we did not get to today over the next week or two. So keep your eyes out for that.
He says, claiming he's not an overachiever, and then saying he's going to do solo streams. Okay, cool. Vanessa?
I feel like I don't stream. I'm so sorry. I feel like the underachiever in this call, but I am super friendly. So if you want to like send me a message on LinkedIn and connect, like feel free to do so if you haven't already. And I'm also Vanimator on Twitter, or X, as some people say.
Don't call it that.
I don't know. Whatever people call it now.
The website formerly known as Twitter. Thank you, Vanessa.
Yes.
I want to be very clear. Nobody's a friggin' underachiever in this group. Thank you. Everybody's great. I also sign off. My name is Lana Bashinsky. You can find me also on all of those various social medias, the website formerly known as Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram/Threads. You can also find my info and videos I've done in the Discord channel under the Meet the Rats. I also tweet on behalf of the rats. There are lots of additional questions rolling in the chat. I really want to make sure that we get to those. I also saw requests, can we possibly get more streams? Well, you just heard from Tyler. Maybe some solo streams coming up to dig through some of those other reels that we didn't get to as a group today. I'll coordinate with him later so that we can see how many he's going to tackle. And then if not, I'll definitely try and throw more rats into the Discord to just get you some, get everybody as much of the reviews as we can in advance of the internship applications. Thank you so much for your interest. Oh, and I forget what else I was going to say. It's been a busy day. It's a busy time. We got to get going. Thank you, everybody, so much for sticking around. Can we get rats in the chats for all of these wonderful animators, and also for yourselves for being such a kind and wonderful and thoughtful community. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing all of your applications on the internship website. And that's it. Rats, everybody. Rats.